All right, so I am going to share my screen so that we can start our presentation on our Policy Council orientation. So I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Corey Holcomb, and I am the Early Childhood Education Director, and I am the one who organizes and runs all of the policy councils. So if I can find the right buttons to make my slideshow work, sorry about that. Okay, so we're not going to do introductions because right now we only have one person on the recording. So, all right, so the purpose for doing this orientation tonight is for you to understand what Head Start is all about, to understand the requirements that guide every Head Start program or agency, to explore the Head Start leadership and government through the lens of structure, processes, and relationships, to learn about tools to help with decision-making related to the goals of the Head Start program, and to explore some key skills that will help you work with the members of your leadership team. This is going to be kind of a lot of information in a short period of time. And so when we have our first business meeting, I'm happy to go over any of the information again with you and explain it if you have any questions. All right, so I'm just going to give a brief background about the Head Start program in general because not everybody really understands what the program is. So Head Start is a federally funded program. It is authorized through an act of Congress. And the Head Start preschool program, which is our program that serves 3- and 4-year-olds, has actually been around since 1965. You see a nice little picture of one of the earliest Head Start programs on the screen. And in 1965, Head Start was developed and thought about as part of Lyndon Johnson's War on Poverty. And so all of the experts in the field of child development and social work and things of the time in that day and age, some really famous names, including Dr. Brazelton, were part of this whole concept of Head Start. And so Head Start developed originally in 1965, which our community action, Alger Marquette, or as it was known back in 1965, Alger Marquette Community Action Board, was one of the very first programs in the country to operate. And so after many years of serving the Head Start model with 3- and 4-year-olds, they decided that we could have even more impact if we started with families and children from birth. So in the 1990s, Early Head Start was added to the grant process. And Early Head Start is our program that can serve pregnant women and then infants from birth up until the age that they turn 3 and become eligible for preschool Head Start. And so we are now looking at coming into 2025, and that is going to be a really big anniversary for the Head Start program, 60 years. So I think one of the key takeaways from that is that we have a long history of this program, and Head Start really has served as the model for many other early childhood programs since its inception. Our state Michigan Great Start Readiness Program is modeled after the Head Start program, and it's really considered the gold standard of early childhood programs. So what makes Head Start so special? So I'm just going to kind of go over some of the core elements that you can kind of see on these building blocks. starting from left to right. The first is that it's a birth to 5 program. So again, like I said, with the initiation of the early Head Start program in the 90s, they really started with services as soon as possible to have the greatest impact on children. And so it is possible for a family to come into our program while the mother is pregnant. She gives birth to the child, and the child is then enrolled, and then that child can stay with us all the way through their 5th birthday and when they become eligible to enter kindergarten. So that's really a long time to build a strong relationship with children and the child and the family. The next thing about what makes Head Start so strong is that it is targeting families who are most in need. Oftentimes that is because of their income status at poverty level, but we also look at other things that may make families and children vulnerable, including children in foster care, families and children who are homeless, families who receive a public assistance, or other things in our particular community that really impact families and that they might need that Head Start program. The other thing that really makes Head Start stand out from other programs in the state and the country is that we are committed to providing comprehensive services. So this is one of the things that was the brainchild of the original creators of the Head Start program, was that they knew that to really get a child ready for school, you had to take care of all of their needs. And so not just teaching them things educationally, but if a child came to school hungry, they weren't going to learn as well. Or if the child came to school not feeling well, they weren't going to learn as well. Or if they were having mental health issues, or there was issues within the family, that was going to affect their ability to learn. So Head Start was really developed as a comprehensive service program so that we work with all of those areas with children and families to make sure that they have all of their health requirements taken care of, that we're offering mental health services to the child and the family, that we're make sure that all of our meals and snacks are meeting the highest nutritional standards. So we know that all of those things are just as important as the academic skills that we teach to get a child ready for school. The next part in the middle there is parent and family engagement. And again, this is one of the very unique things about the Head Start program, and the reason why you're here tonight is that Head Start was built on a 2-generational model that encourages families to be very involved in the program, their child's education. And again, also recognizing that the success of the family is the success of the child. So that's why we provide family advocates to also help the families meet their adult needs while we work with the children on their needs. The other thing that makes Head Start unique is that is federal to local programming, or I'm sorry, federal to local funding. So our program is a direct grant to us from the Office of Head Start, which is housed in the Department of Health and Human Services. So that means that we have the opportunity to apply for funding that meets the unique needs of our community in the Upper Peninsula, because we know that the needs of our families are going to be different than the families in Metro Detroit. It's going to be different than the families in Florida or California. So we are able to develop a program through that direct funding that meets our local community needs. Our program is also built on equity and inclusion. So we build a culture of understanding and respect. All families are welcome in our program, and we go the extra step to make sure that they feel included. We do have robust performance standards. So with the award of federal funds, there's also a lot of requirements that we have to meet to prove that we are worthy of those funds. So we have set of standards that guides how our program must run. So there's key pieces that every Head Start program in the nation has to follow while still being able to make choices that best fit our needs. Developmentally appropriate early childhood education. Again, this is one of the key pieces of Head Start, is to make sure children are becoming school ready. And so that early childhood education is a key piece. And then finally, shared governance. And again, this goes back to the importance of including families and parents in our program. And so not only do we want them to be involved with their child's education, but we want them to be involved in the decision-making of the program. And we do that through the Policy Council, which is, again, why you're here tonight. So these are the rules that govern our program, and that is the Head Start Act. So like I said, Head Start is a program that is approved by Congress and funded through a congressional act. The Head Start Act was last put into effect in 2007. So we do expect that, we're actually overdue for a reauthorization of the program. But with all the other things going on in Congress, we're not sure when that's going to happen. But so the current set of law that authorizes and regulates the Head Start program was from 2007. The other document you see on here is, again, our performance standards. Head Start program performance standards were recently updated in August and are just going into effect now. And so as we go through this year on the Policy Council, we'll talk about some of those changes to the performance standards and what those mean to our program. But like I said, these are the underlying tenets of the program that all programs, Head Start programs across the country have to follow. So let's talk a little bit about how the Head Start program is run. So the leadership in government, there is set the program direction. They exercise the fiscal and legal oversight. And then make sure that there is a balanced representation of voices that ensure that there is stakeholder input, diversity, and accountability to the community. So this is a handout that you should have in your packet. So there are 3 parts to the overall leadership and government of the Head Start program. So starting at the top of your diagram, there is the governing body or tribal council, if the case may be with a Native American program. And so the governing body, which for our agency is the Community Action Alger Marquette Board of Directors, they have the ultimate legal and fiscal responsibility, including safeguarding the federal funds. Then moving to the right is the management staff. So that is me as the early childhood director. I have a team of managers, and then we oversee all of the other staff that work in the Head Start program. And so it's our job to oversee the day-to-day operations of the program and make sure that everything is being implemented as required. And then your part on the left is the Policy Council. And so your job is to help set the program direction. So you give the parents' perspective, make sure that the services that we provide are meeting the needs of the parents and the families and the children in our communities. So you help us, make those decisions and set that direction for what we want our program to look like. And then we all work together to provide leadership and a strategic direction to the Head Start program. There are some required composition of each of those bodies. So again, starting at the governing body, the board of directors, they have to have at least one fiscal expert, one education expert, and one attorney with a legal background. And then also include members from our community, including we do have Head Start current and former parents who are on our board of directors. Our management staff overseeing our day-to-day operations includes our executive director, our financial officer, myself as the Head Start director, and then, as I said, I have a management team that oversees all of our content areas. So who has to be on the policy council? Well, the policy council is elected by the parents, and they should be parents of children who are currently in the Head Start or Early Head Start program. We also add in community members. So our policy council includes our families in the GSRP program, who also are served by our agency, and then representatives from other community organizations that work closely with us, such as the Intermediate School District Marisa. And we also want to make sure that there are representatives of all of our program options. So Head Start, Early Head Start are both represented. And then, like I said, we also include our GSRP state preschool program parents in there to make sure that their voice is heard for our agency as well. So what is your job on the Policy Council? So you are representatives of the parents and participants. So you assure that their interests, beliefs, and values of the group are reflected in the decision-making process, and you promote and vote for the best interests of the program as a whole. So we really do encourage you to be active at your center level, attend the monthly meetings that your center holds so that you have an opportunity to talk to other parents, and make sure that you know what's important to the families in your community. And one of the reasons why we have a policy council with representatives from every center is because we have a diversity within our two-county area. And so we know that what is important to the families in Munising may be very different from what's important to the families in Ishpeming or Gwinn or Marquette. So it's really important that each center has representation, so we can take all of those perspectives in when we are having discussions about what's the best thing for the program to do and making those decisions. So inclusive leadership, the Head Start management staff's day-to-day activities and operating reports inform the decisions made by the Policy Council and the governing body. So each month you will get a packet of information that tells you what's been going on in the last month in the program. And then, like we've said, your job is to help determine the program direction. So we'll bring, initiatives, applications, ideas to you for your input. The governing body's legal and fiscal oversight builds on the management staff and the Policy Council's unique insight and perspectives. So in the end, we will bring things to you as the management staff. You will vote on them, make recommendations of approval, which will then be passed on to our board of directors for the final decision. So you are sending your recommendations to the board of directors. And then those three entities, the management staff, the policy council, and the governing body, work together to support the grantees on their 5-year journeys, particularly around program planning. So the Head Start grant does operate on a 5-year cycle. Our program is currently entering year number 2 of the 5 years. And there's different things that have to happen during each of those 5 years. And we have different monitorings from the Office of Head Start and things like that, which we'll talk as we get further into our policy council year. So keep in mind that while Head Start program leadership is an inclusive process, the ultimate responsibility lies with the governing body. So again, your job as the policy council is to make recommendations to the governing body, who has the ultimate decision making. So it's how some of those processes work. This is another handout that you had in your mailed packet. So there is a lot of different pieces and moving parts to the Head Start program. And so if you look at the very outer reel of this system in dark blue, that is our leadership and governance. So again, those are those three entities that we just talked about, and they're kind of keeping an eye on all of these different parts that are going on. So in the yellow inner circle is program management, planning, and oversight systems. So this is where we kind of design an overall idea of what we want the program to look like, how it's going to be arranged, how we're going to manage it, what systems we have in place for monitoring how things are going. And then the spokes on those light blue circle are the different pieces that help make the program come together. So you'll kind of see as we look around, the fiscal management is obviously very important because we have to make sure that we have the money to pay for the things that are needed. So you'll get fiscal reports each month. Community and self-assessment. This is a process that we'll talk about as we go through the year because it's, again, how we make sure that we're meeting the needs of our unique community. Transportation and facilities are important to that day-to-day operation, as well as up at the top, human resources. Staff is a huge important piece of making our program what it is. So all of these things are important pieces of making that system work. And then these are some of the components that we monitor and the different managers that we have. So ERSI, we'll talk about that more as we get into the year, but that is our enrollment piece, our education piece, our health piece, mental health, and then our community and family engagement pieces. And all of those come together in the very middle for quality child and family outcomes. So when all of those pieces are working correctly, then our children and families should be succeeding in our program. So program planning, like I said, is a 5-year process. So every 5 years, we establish long-term goals and annual objectives. And so that was another handout that you should have gotten in your mailed packet with our current 5-year goals. Like I said, we've just completed year 1 and we're starting year 2, and what our outcomes were and what we're working towards achieving in the next 4 years. After we identify what our goals are, then we have to create a plan and a budget to support those goals. And then we start to implement that action plan. And so this is where you come in because your job is to analyze our progress and compliance through ongoing monitoring. And then based on that monitoring, if we need to change anything, we have to make those changes and then implement a new action plan. So this is going to be part of the reports that you receive at our monthly meetings, telling you what our progress is, how we're doing on meeting some of those goals, and if there's anything that we've identified that we might need to adjust in our program. And then once a year, we do an annual self-assessment just to see big picture wise how we're doing on those 5-year goals. And then if there's any changes in our community or based on our self-assessment, then we make those corrections and we start this process all over again. As we said, the budget is an important piece of our program because we need to pay for the most important things. So, what is your role in the fiscal management of the program? First of all, you're going to get a monthly financial report that tells you how we've been doing on managing our budget, which we set annually. And when we have our first meeting next month, we'll talk about the role of the finance committee and looking at those monthly statements. You'll also receive an annual audit report so that we do have outside auditors look at our program, make sure that we're following all of the fiscal guidelines and regulations. And then you also give us input on program direction and priorities. So you're going to approve our budget app and our applications that we submit for funding. Give us ideas about, where you think money should be spent in, big categories. Should we invest more money in our staff wages and salaries, or should we put money towards another area of the program? And again, approving that annual budget, which happens in July for our program. What the Policy Council doesn't do, you don't give input on the small day-to-day purchases. So again, you're really looking at the higher program budget category issues and any big concerns with meeting our set budget. There may be smaller pots of money or smaller decisions that we ask the Policy Council to weigh in on. But really, you're looking more at a higher level and not at smaller day-to-day center level spending type things. So there's different pieces that each of the three parts of our leadership team have in monitoring program performance. So you can kind of see here that the management team has a set of responsibilities, the Policy Council has a set of responsibilities, and then the governing body has a set of responsibilities. And so you'll see that a lot of the same words fall into your blue section in the middle here, which is that you're going to submit your decisions to the governing body. You're going to approve and submit your recommendations to the governing body. You're going to review your reports and establish procedures that will then be sent to the governing body for final approval. For example, if the activity is monitoring program performance, the management team's responsibility is to put together the reports that you need to make your decisions, and we'll go over that list of reports in a little bit. The Policy Council's responsibility is to review those reports that they receive and then use that data for ongoing oversight, correction, and self-assessment. And then the governing body's responsibility for monitoring program performance is to also review the related reports and use that data, which would include recommendations from the Policy Council. And again, just kind of looking at those three groups again, and you can see how they're all interconnected. So, common questions that come up for Policy Council. What happens if I'm still not sure what to do? Well, the first thing is there's no wrong question to ask. So, when we're in meetings, please speak up and ask for clarification. You'll always get our packets of information in advance for you to review. So you can come to the meeting with questions, or as we go over the information during the meeting, please make sure that you ask for clarification, ask for more information to be provided to you. We're always happy to bring in guests to our meetings to, if you have a specific question on an area, for example, you might want to know a little bit more about what the child school readiness data means. So you may ask that our education manager come to our policy council meeting to explain that a little bit more to you, or something like that. Another question is, can I make suggestions about proposed policies? Again, if you have ideas for the program, you're always welcome to bring those up. If it's about a policy that is being brought to you for a vote, you can always add suggestions or ask clarifications, or if there's something that you become aware of, maybe at one of your center committees, or something that you've heard from other parents that you want to bring up to the other policy council members for discussion, you're more than welcome to contact me or the policy council chair and ask that that be added to our monthly agenda. We also have a place in our monthly agenda for policy council member comments, and that's an appropriate place to make comments as well. So in addition to this training that we're doing tonight, there is an online training that you're welcome to take. So there is a website specific to Head Start, which you can see the website address down below. And I can also share that with everybody after the meeting in an email, so you have the direct link. But it is called the Early Childhood Learning and Knowledge Center, or as we also know it, eClick. And again, this is the home for all things Head Start, and they do have an online leadership and governance training that you can do, and this is a self-paced module. So again, there's lots of information on the eClick website, so you can find out more about what Head Start is, what the different Head Start programs are, and if you're interested in that governance side of things, you can read more into the Head Start Act or our performance standards. So I'm going to pause there because, like I said, I've just went through a ton of information in a very short period of time. And is there any questions that you have right now? And I know for the people who will be watching this as a recording, please follow up with me after you watch this, and I'm happy to have a phone call conversation or an individual Zoom meeting with you to go over your questions.
I don't believe I have any questions at the current moment. It might after I digest everything, but not right now.
Okay, great. Okay, so I am going to switch now from my PowerPoint to just go over a few things that were also in your mailed packet. So the first thing that I want to talk about, you should have and I'm sorry, you're probably not going to be able to see this very well as I'm trying to show it on my camera, but you do have a list of reports. And it's kind of got a black bar at the top. I think it's printed on yellow paper. And this is all of the required sharing that we have to share with you as members of the Policy Council so that you can make informed decisions. So I'm just going to kind of go through each of these pieces and kind of tell you about how they come about in our policy council cycle. So the first one is monthly financial statements. So again, as I mentioned, you will get a financial statement each month in your packet. It'll tell you where we are in our Head Start budget and our early Head Start budget. It'll also give you a copy of our visa statement so that you just make sure that we are appropriately spending federal funds. We do have the option of pulling together a finance committee. If we get enough parents interested to meet ahead of our policy council meeting, then the finance committee can go through those reports in more detail and would come back to the full policy council and make recommendations. Otherwise, we'll just go through the information as a whole group each month. The next one is monthly program information summaries. So when you get your packet, you'll see there's a one-page summary report that just kind of gives important data pieces. Some of the things that we share with you are not only fiscal information, but information about how we're doing with enrollment and attendance, how we're doing with meeting our disabilities requirements, and making sure that you have information about where we are with our food meal program that we provide, the CACFP, which is the Child and Adult Care Food Program. I think that's what the initials stand for. So then enrollments reports and attendance reports, again, that'll be part of that monthly report that you got, so that you can see, because we do have a required number of kids that we have to serve. And then once they're enrolled in our program, we also want to make sure that they're attending regularly. And again, I said that those monthly reports include meals and snacks, because we do get a reimbursement from the USDA for all of the meals and snacks that we provide. So that's why it's important that you get that information. The financial audit, again, that is done on our program annually. Usually we have that audit report in June or July to present to you. The annual self-assessment we typically do at the end of the school year. So we do that in May, and we will talk more about that as we get closer to that time of the year. And we invite policy council members and other parents to be active participants in that self-assessment process. Community-wide strategic planning and needs assessment. So again, this is something that we typically do in the May time period as we're getting ready to do our annual application. So each year we just kind of take a look at what are the needs in our community. Has there been any significant population shifts? Where are children and families currently living? Does that impact where we offer our services? Do we need to change where our centers and classes are located? So all that should be based on what we know about our community and our service area, which is Marquette and Alger County. Communication and guidance from the secretary, that is the secretary from the Department of Health and Human Services, which is where our program lives in the federal government. So, they do usually send out guidance to us 3 or 4 times a year. Whenever that happens, I will let you know at the next monthly meeting. And then finally, program information report. This is an annual report that we have to submit to the Office of Head Start. It's due the end of August for the previous school year. And so we'll share that information with you as well. So those are the types of reports that you'll receive each month in our packet, as well as if there's any business that needs to be approved by the Policy Council, and that will be part of your agenda that you receive. Also included in your policy count or in your orientation packet in the mail is our Policy Council bylaws. So I do encourage you to take a few minutes to look through the bylaws. One of the things that's important to note is that in order for us to make decisions and vote on items, we do have to have a quorum, which is a minimum of 5 members at each meeting. If we don't have 5 members in attendance at the meeting, then we do have the ability to collect votes from emails. So, we really hope that we get at least 5 people at every meeting so we can have a discussion and do those votes live. But if for some reason we don't have a quorum, then I will be reaching out to everybody after the meeting to get an email vote. And then the last thing that I just wanted to highlight in the information that was in your mailed packet is there is a handout on what our Policy Council Executive Committee positions are. So at our first meeting next week, we are going to ask for volunteers to serve in leadership positions for the Policy Council for this year. So I'm just going to briefly talk about each of those positions and what their duties are. But like I said, you do have a handout that tells a little bit more about it. And if you might be interested in serving in one of those positions, then you're welcome to email me or call me with any questions you have, and I will talk you through it. So the chairperson for the Policy Council helps me set the agenda each month. And then at the meeting, they will walk through each part of the agenda and kind of run the meeting. I am there to work very closely with the chairperson to make sure that all of the requirements get met. And then the Policy Council chairperson will verify that the Policy Council has approved something, and then we send it on to the Board of Directors. The vice chairperson typically does what a normal vice person does, and they step in if the chairperson isn't available to be at the meeting for that month. The secretary, the duties of the secretary is to take roll call at each Policy Council meeting and then take notes at the Policy Council meeting. Now, I type up the notes, the minutes for each meeting to send out in the next month's Policy Council packet. So you're just kind of taking notes as my backup, but you don't have to worry about formally writing up those minutes. I will take care of that. In the absence of the chairperson or vice chairperson, then the secretary would step in to run a meeting. The next positions are our Head Start Association representatives. So this is unique. We do look for 2 parents to be our representatives to the Michigan Head Start Association at 3 meetings a year. So this does require some travel to be a representative. All of the assembly meetings are held downstate. So the first meeting after elections would be in January in Detroit. Then there is a spring meeting in Ann Arbor, and then finally a fall meeting in September on Mackinac Island. So typically it is leaving on a Wednesday. The assembly meetings are Thursdays and Friday mornings, and then we travel back. So, as a representative, our agency will provide your transportation and lodging and meal allowances. You just have to be able to, like I said, arrange for childcare and whatever else you need to do to be able to leave home for 3 days. So it's a really great opportunity if you do have that flexibility to get away a couple times a year. You get to meet other parents. There's always very high quality speakers at those events. And then you would come back and share whatever information you learned with the other policy council members. And like I said, if you have any questions about any of those positions, you think you might be interested in holding one of those, you can let me know before the business meeting and I can put your name on the ballot, or you can self-nominate yourself at the meeting. So that concludes our orientation. Again, for those of you who are watching us as a recording, if you have any questions, please reach out to me by phone or email, and I'm happy to arrange a time to talk more about any of those details. And you can always bring up questions during our Policy Council meetings each month.